What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Hoops Betting Hour. I am your host, the big man on campus, Jeff Nadu. Hope you're having a great day wherever you are. It is Wednesday, June 9th, 2021. Another day, another dollar here on the show. We are presented by PicksWise and powered every day by FanDuel. As we say every day, we are here every day breaking it down. The NBA playoffs have been good to me. They've been good to a lot of our guests. Make sure you're checking this show out. There are very few shows that are putting out the info that we are on a daily basis. So if you're new around here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're checking it out live or on the replay, make sure you hit the like button and leave us a comment. We do appreciate it. Let's bring in our guest for today. As usual here on a Wednesday, it's Blackjack Fletcher. Blackjack, how you doing? What's happening?
Fantastic, my man. How are you doing? We got a short one-game slate tonight. So
Yes, we do. I'm doing well. I had a great night last night. I know. How did you do? Did you have anything last night in the NBA?
last night, I had the Sixers, which was obviously a nice win. I also had the Jazz -4, which was a little bit of a kick in the pants there as they won that game by 3. But, I'm sure we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we will. As always, welcome everybody in. Thanks for checking us out here on the show. It's already Wednesday, man. I mean, these days go so fast anymore, don't they, Blackjack? It seems like time just flies after you turn a certain age.
Sure does, brother.
It really is crazy. Last night, we had 2 games. First one was where I kind of played my action. You had a game. You had something in that game as well. Sixers get the job done, 118-102. Really went exactly how we thought it would. This was a zigzag kind of. It was a perfect situation for the zigzag. Sixers had to kind of fend off the Hawks a couple of times, but they had a really good fourth quarter, kind of pulled away and won that game. They did a very good job on Trae Young. But shout out to me, Blackjack. Trae Young over 9.5 assists last night. How about that? That's a banger.
That's a nice one. That's a nice one for sure. You've been nailing the props, man.
Yeah, no, I've been happy with them for the most part. I had a little bit of a tough stretch at the start of them with props, but overall I've been very happy with how I've done. But when you look at the Hawks, they didn't make 19 threes. Sixers did a better job, which you kind of figured would happen. You knew Doc Rivers was going to do better. I will say Doc Rivers still made some bad mistakes. I mean, we don't need to see Furk and Korkmaz. Stop doing that. Stop putting him in. It's just, Maxey didn't play real well. The bench sucks. This bench is bad. Outside of Shake Milton, who didn't contribute anything in game 1, he did give you 14 last night. It was kind of the difference. But another huge game for Joel Embiid. I guess from what I want from Doc Rivers, I don't know if Doc realizes it, but you can play your starters over 40 minutes. That is something you can do. But all in all, a very wall-to-wall victory. Crowd was good last night.
Yep.
Sixers tied up, and they needed it. Now you head back to Atlanta for 2. Big win last night. They had to have it.
Yeah, they had to. I mean, listen, if they were to drop that game and go down 0-2 to this Hawks team, obviously, mathematically, it's a bad situation. It's not dire, but this Hawks team would just be brimming with confidence, and I don't know that you'd get back from there. So, yeah, the Sixers did what they had to do. I think you and I both thought that was going to happen. I think this series turns in their favor at this point moving forward. But, I was glad that they did what they had to do.
Yeah, this is where I think the playoffs, and you kind of get this in the NBA, where things just kind of figure themselves out and go the way you think they're going to go. You have to be willing to change your stripes. Game to game, and I feel like we've put on kind of a clinic with that in this series through 2 games. So I was very happy with the outcome. I was very happy with the effort given last night by them, and did a nice job. Look, but again, one thing I will point out, Ben Simmons, 35 minutes, 4 points. I mean,
listen, we can
come
talk
on,
about
man.
This guy. I'm curious your take as a Sixers fan, right? Because I know you're more objective than most Sixers fans. You're willing to bet against them and you understand their flaws and whatnot. So I want someone to explain this to me. What is all of the love for Ben Simmons about in terms of what does he bring to the table that you look at and say, all right, this makes him an above average NBA player? What is it?
I mean, listen, I've said this for a long time. This city has been mystified by him, and he has them under a spell where he really can't do anything wrong. But I'll make 2 points, and I've made this point time and time again, and I'm going to keep making it because it continues to hold true. And you can make the case that I'm giving him a little too much credit. Ben Simmons is no different than Andre Iguodala. They're the same player. The only difference is Iguodala was actually a better offensive player than Ben is.
Yes.
He could shoot. He could get to the rim. He's a good passer. He does nice defensive stuff. But he's Iguodala. He's not a good enough player to lead a team. He's a very good kind of role player behind a star or 2 stars.
Like, can I ask you, like, in terms of like fit for the team and like role on the team?
No, he doesn't.
Is he a better fit than like TJ McConnell was?
Listen, I think it's funny because Sixers fans will hear that opinion and they'll make you sound like you're a complete idiot because you said something like that. But if you
it's passing and defense, McConnell did those things.
No, if you truly watch basketball, now look, he is a better player, I think, overall, just with his size and his ability to get to the rim and just kind of some of the things he can do there. But I was on a Sirius last night with Donnie and his co-host, and the co-host made a point about, Donnie put out a tweet that this fan base legitimately was up in arms because they didn't want to trade Thibault and Maxey for James Harden, right, or Simmons and someone for James Harden, and I think it's one of the biggest missteps in the history of the NBA that they actually didn't trade Ben Simmons for James Harden. Like, think about that for a second. Where would they be if they had James Harden compared to Ben Simmons?
Well, and let's talk about this too. James Harden would have been a much better fit on this team than he is in Brooklyn, right?
Of course.
I think in a lot of ways, what he does in Brooklyn, they already had. Philly could have used that scoring punch that he brings to the table. I think also it would have just taken so much off of Embiid's shoulders. Like, I don't know how they didn't make that trade. I genuinely don't understand it.
And you look at what Houston got back for James Harden. They got Ugats back for him. I mean, you probably could have got him for one player.
They got like every Brooklyn pick from here to eternity.
Yeah, but again, the Sixers don't need to worry about first-round picks now. This is a contender, right?
I'm with you. I would have made the trade. I would have made the trade in a heartbeat. I would have told him, you want Simmons and 3-1s done. We're done.
Yeah. I will never understand why this ownership group and this GM continue to get a pass. Like, we act like Daryl Morey. And look, I don't put anything on Daryl Morey because Daryl Morey just got here. But, like, this organization keeps getting a pass. And it's like the fan base just accepts, like, this is the team. Team isn't good enough. And I know they won last night. But let's ask ourselves, do you really actually think that with a 75% Joel Embiid, that's not enough to win games? And when you really look at this team, Joel Embiid's awesome, but any good coach will take him out of the game. Look at prime example. Look at the Suns, right, with Monty Williams. I mean, Ayton did a great job on Jokic, took him out of the game basically.
Yeah.
I mean, any good, Now here's one thing that I will say. If they do advance past Atlanta, I don't know that Brooklyn has an answer for Joel Embiid, but the rest of the Sixers, I don't really trust them. I don't.
You're gonna, and you. This goes back to another point you brought up about Doc Rivers not playing guys more than 40 minutes. Listen, I like the Sixers. The Sixers are my pick to come out of the East, but the only way it happens is if they realize what you just said, and that is that Brooklyn has no interior answer. Zero. None. Like, literally, Joel Embiid will get whatever he wants if he decides he's not going to hover around the three-point line and he's going to go down low and just play bully ball. Everything needs to run through him. Absolutely everything.
But again, man, good coaches find ways to figure that out. I mean,
we don't know if Steve Nash is a good coach. We're being honest, and the guy that's right here is not a good playoff coach. So I don't know.
Again, I think this team has been given passes. People are mystified by Ben. I don't know. I don't know. Again, I made the point, and it was funny because I made that Iguodala point on a South Jersey radio station, and the live chat that they had crucified me. What is this guy talking about?
I think you're being generous, Dan.
No, I know. It's like, if you really look at Ben Simmons, like, brass tacks, consistent player, he's Iguodala. And he might not even be that level Iguodala. Because I hate to break it to all you people, Iguodala was an elite defender. There was a time in the NBA, he was the best defensive player. It was him, it was Tony Allen, it was guys that just get up in your grip, Jay Crowder, guys that just get it up in you and defend you. He can defend anyone on the team. He's a better shooter than Simmons. I mean, because he actually shoots. It's actually probably a little generous, frankly.
I think it is being generous, brother. That's what I think. I don't know.
I mean, to play 35 minutes in the NBA and score 4 points is shocking. I mean, shockingly bad. It's funny because I saw a tweet last night about. I have to bring this up because it's so funny. So I'm going to say this as nice as possible. So Ben Simmons has an affinity for a certain type of women. If you know anything about him, you see him out. He loves white females. Like it's
okay. Like white girls, that's fine.
Yeah, it's pretty known. Somebody put a tweet out last night.
Breaking news. Me too.
Yeah, same. So he put a tweet out last night that if you lined up 40 white girls from a club in Center City under the basket, Ben Simmons would score 40 a night. I saw that and I thought it was so funny because it's so true, man. He just doesn't care. He just doesn't care about getting that better. Yeah. And he doesn't care.
That to me is always the thing that I'll never really understand because, and I know you and I have talked about this. There have been guys like this, right? I mean, Jason Kidd couldn't shoot. Rajon Rondo couldn't shoot. Lonzo Ball recently, when Lonzo Ball was a rookie his first, second year, he could not shoot. Teams would dare him to shoot.
But they go out
and they go out and they get respectable. Ben Simmons doesn't have to be a 40% three-point shooter. He's got to be a 20%.
No, he just has to figure out, hey, I can maybe do this and you might want to guard me. Like, it is so wild.
Just to the point where it's not a free basket, where teams are willing to say, okay, we have to guard him, so we're not going to double up elsewhere. That's all it is.
And remember, do you know how long Ben Simmons has been in the league?
At this point, 5 years?
Yeah. And we're still putting up with this.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know what the problem is now? No team's going to want him. You could have got rid of him 2 years ago and still got something back.
You probably could have got Kawhi Leonard a couple
Yes! Which we talked about.
People literally were debating that. I remember it because you're right.
Many
you and
moons
I had
ago.
this conversation,
yes.
And people were like, you can't give up Ben Simmons for Kawhi Leonard.
We used to have Blackjack and I used to do this call-in show called Viva La Vegas. It was on Blog Talk Radio, and it was actually pretty fun. I remember the exact night we had this conversation, and yeah, and we're still sitting here having the same conversation. It's like the conversation I had with my mother and father when I would go there for dinner for years on end. And my mother and father would say, you got to do something about your weight, man. You don't want to be like this when you're 40, 45. And I said, and they would keep having this conversation to me. And I never got through to me. And then eventually it got through to me. And I changed. But it's not getting through to Ben Simmons.
No. Ben Simmons like shooting? I don't need that.
Right. Cheryl Martinez says he isn't even Draymond. Exactly. Draymond's a better player than him. I mean, they're kind of similar, right? But at least Draymond can shoot as well.
Draymond can shoot.
I mean, it's just. Let me ask you a question right now. If I said to you, right now, Phoenix will trade you Bridges straight up for Simmons, would you do that? Yes. Yes.
Would, yeah.
Yes.
I was just thinking about the contracts and whatnot. Yeah, I probably would. Yeah.
Yes.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think very highly of Ben Simmons at all. Like I know there are some people that are a little more realistic, and they may say, well, maybe he's not this superstar player. I don't think he is a very valuable piece to an NBA team. He costs far more than he's worth. Mm-hmm. He cannot score offensively. As you said, you have a starting point guard who's giving you 4 points a night.
But again,
he can't really make free throws all that well. Like the guy, he passes and he defends well. You know what? That's Emmanuel Quickly, brother. That's Emmanuel Quickly.
But remember, this is a fan base that when he has a good game, they'll be like, "Hey, what's up with those Simmons haters?"
Let me tell you right now, you would have been better off with friggin' 35-year-old Derrick Rose.
Yeah, like it's like, what about the 4 other games out of the 5 that he didn't play well in? Like, it's like the guy at the lottery stand that spends $300 on lottery and then hits for $100 and then tells you how great of a lottery player he is and how he has a system to win. No, hey, Ben Simmons stands. Out of 5 games, he might play well in 1. Make sure you talk about all 4 of them or all 5 of them. Like, give me a break on Ben Simmons.
I'm sorry, I don't think he's a good NBA player. Like I said, if I was a Sixers fan, I'd rather have Derrick Rose or Emmanuel Quickly, both Knicks point guards. I would have rather had because they're better fits on this team in terms of money and style of play.
Yeah, I remember there was a lot of people last year before the pandemic. People crucified me again because I said I would trade Ben Simmons straight up for D'Angelo Russell. People thought I was nuts. Do you know what D'Angelo Russell and Joel Embiid would be? Real damn good, real good, better than they are now. You throw Curry, you throw Danny Green and whoever else around them. They'd be further ahead than they are now.
Harris, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into one other thing last night. You mentioned it. I'll tell you what, terrific basketball game. Definitely a rough one. I will say, though, Blackjack, I feel like you got to kind of look at it and say, well, they didn't get crushed in the first half. You know, they fought all the way back.
Yeah, I don't think this was a bad beat. Like, I didn't cover this game by 1 point, but this wasn't a bad beat to me because I didn't think Utah was going to win this game. So, I mean, the fact that Utah came back to win surprised me.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And you know, you needed look, Donovan Mitchell, man, what a player he is.
Dude,
and I also want to shout out Utah. This is the best crowd in the NBA. The best crowd, best home court in the NBA.
It's a solid crowd, and you've got the elevation advantage, which most people think about only in Denver. Utah's actually at a higher elevation than Denver.
I remember, speaking of Utah real quick, I remember back when Jimmer Fredette was at BYU. Mm-hmm. They had some really great rivalries with Kawhi Leonard at San Diego State. They're both top 10 teams that year. There was a game late in the season. It was the second game of they played in San Diego the first time, second time in BYU. I remember I was at the Shore. I was working for my dad at the time. This was like 2012, I think. Blackjack, this was a wild story. I was at the Shore. We were building our shore house. My dad bought a piece of land and built a house like right near the ocean. And I remember my dad rented this like efficiency. It wasn't efficiency, but it was like a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
And we would stay down there for like a few weeks on end and build. And I remember my dad had this idiotic idea. I said, Dad, don't do this to me, please. Please don't do this. My dad brought down an Amish crew to frame the house.
Oh, boy.
And 2 of them got a hotel, and 2 of them, because in the 1 bedroom, there were 3 beds. Crazy enough. My dad made me stay in that room with them 2. And I remember that night, the TV my dad was watching, and I remember I went in my room and I listened to the game on the radio. I streamed the game. And I take this back to Utah. That was the loudest crowd I've ever heard. Like that Marriott Center BYU crowd is crazy loud. And it seems like they transform it to Utah as well, to the basketball team. They love hoops out there, man. They love hoops.
Well, I mean, it's the only pro sport they have. I think that, they identify with that team. And I think this version of this team is a really easy team to root for, right? Like, these are good guys. Like Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell. They're guys you like, right? You want to root for these guys. I can't say enough about Donovan Mitchell. Like, I know we have a lot of stars in the NBA right now, and we've got a lot of young stars, right? I mean, the league is really kind of transitioning to a new generation of guys. This guy's as good as anybody in the NBA. What he does come playoff time, we talk a lot of times about players that are clutch and players that show up when the lights are on. Man, what this kid does when the lights are on bright is better than anybody out there except maybe Damian Lillard. Like, I don't know, man.
No,
he's something special.
You know what he is? He's everything Paul George wishes he could be.
Yeah, dude.
In the playoffs. And Paul George last night. I mean, this guy, man, is the absolute worst in the playoffs. Blackjack last night, 4 for 17 from the field. Game 7 against the Mavs, 5 for 15 from the field. This guy is the absolute worst. Like, and if you're Utah, you've got to really look at yourselves and say, you know what? We won last night without Mike Conley, our floor general.
Yeah.
That is really bad news for the Clippers. Really bad news. They have to find a way to win game 2.
I'll tell you this right now. If I'm Utah, let Paul George beat me. Let him. I don't care. That dude is such you know what? He's a bum. He really is. I've never seen somebody with more of an ego about themselves perform less on big stages. And this isn't just recent. This goes back to his time in Indiana, right? Okay. This guy was no good in the playoffs in Indiana. All right. And then he decides he's going to force his way out because he's some mega star, goes to OKC, same deal at OKC come playoff time, nothing, except then he's, I'm going to say, dumb enough to give himself a nickname called Playoff P, which is ridiculous. Gives himself the nickname. And
I got to tell you, man.
Perform in the playoffs. Some reason Kawhi Leonard decides this is the guy I want with me in LA. Really makes you wonder about Kawhi Leonard a little bit. Brings this idiot with him, and he still disappears every year in the playoffs. What do you need to know about this guy?
I got to tell you, man, I kind of did feel bad for him, though, late in the game. It was a really bad, overrated chant. Like, it was loud. Like, good. You could see it, like, seeping into his head. And, like, I felt bad for him. Because I do generally feel bad. Like, I know he's a pretty good player. It's just, like, in the playoffs, he's just so bad. Like, I don't know why. I will say, and I always say this anytime I talk about Paul George, one of the hottest wags in the game. One of the hottest. His wife.
Isn't his wife Doc Rivers' daughter?
Bella. No. I
Wasn't
think there was
her at some point. There was some entanglement.
Yeah, there was some kind of connection, but she's actually with Seth Curry now, I believe. But no, Paul George's wife is Daniela Rodgick. She's like she's very hot in my opinion. She's my type, so I
love that this Utah fan base, and I know I've seen the comments in here saying they're all a bunch of racists.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring that up.
Listen, I'm going to bring it up briefly. I'm sure that there are racists in the Utah crowd, as there are racists in every city in this country. Okay, let's not paint an entire place with a brush.
Look, sadly, it's still a problem in this country. I'm not going to paint an entire fan base because 3 or 4 people.
That's no better than what you're accusing them of doing. So let's just not do that.
And the good thing,
the fact that this Utah crowd was chanting "Playoff P" and overrated,
really high level.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I really hate when people do that, when they call it an entire group because of 5 people. I mean, stop doing that. Okay, Are there some people that are gutless, terrible people? Yeah, and that's a shame. But Utah's a good place. It's full of a lot of good people, and just like in Philadelphia, like a lot of people knock Philadelphia. I mean, are there some jerk offs? Yeah, but.
Did you happen to see this breaking news in the NBA? The Pacers have fired Nate Bjorkgren after 1 year.
Well, hey, I didn't think that was a good hire from the beginning. So, listen, I think the off the court issues kind of seeped through. Remember, they had some issues inside. They were terrible in the playoffs. The locker room seemed to be lost. Yeah, I mean, it was a bad hire. They've got to go make a good hire as well. Go out.
They need to blow it up.
Yeah.
They blow it up. Otherwise, they're going to be contending for this 5 through 8 spot every year, and that's nowhere to be. Be good or be bad.
Agreed. Also, one other piece of news, then we will get into tonight's game. We only have one game tonight, so we're trying to fill some good time with some good info. Nikola Jokic is your MVP. And it sucks because in this town, all these reporters, Nikola wins, but Joel was best. No, he wasn't. Nikola was very good. He deserved it. Give the guy some respect. And I know you're not you're not the biggest Nikola Jokic guy, but I love Nikola Jokic. He's a real good guy to root for. He's selfless. He doesn't care.
I break balls sometimes about Jokic. I do think he certainly had an MVP caliber season. I do think Joel Embiid was right there with him.
Oh, sure.
I think that for me, it would have been a coin flip between the two of them. I have no problem with either one winning the award. But, credit to him. Congratulations. And unfortunately, I think his season is going to come to an end very soon because without Jamal Murray, this ain't a good matchup.
No, you're right, and we're going to get into that here in a second. I just, I love the kid. I think he's so selfless. He doesn't care about awards or anything. He's just he's a good guy, man. He doesn't care. And you look at like where he came from. Like I've talked about this on the show. Like he lived in like a 2-bedroom apartment with his like 5 brothers and like it was crazy. Like his path is wild. Like he talked about how his dream was always just like become a pro in Serbia. Like now he's the MVP. And he's the first big to be an MVP in a long time, which is cool. Bringing the big back.
That's true.
Paul George married a stripper. Okay, so strippers are people too, man. Like I'm not kind of trying to go on that thing as well, but like I'm not going to say a person's a bad person because they're a stripper. Like she probably made a ton of money, and she's probably pretty known and made a lot of money. That doesn't mean she's a bad person.
Yeah, let's be clear too.
So,
there's and again, you're right. Being a stripper does not make you a bad person, but there is a difference between being a stripper at
exactly.
the Cougar Lounge in Charlestown, West Virginia.
Yeah, exactly.
And the kind of stripper that's hanging out with Paul George.
Right.
Probably very different. Areas.
Right. It's like, comparing like, keep in mind, she's dancing, like all she's doing is dancing. It's her body. Like it's not, she's not hooking up with every male she gets in contact with, She probably made a ton of money. He called her and said, why, I'm going to take you out of the strip club. By the way, I'll admit, I've dated a stripper in the past. We dated for a while. Good people. She actually left the strip club while we were dating. So, good people. I always, I've never been to a strip club, not once. I didn't even know she was a stripper until like a few weeks into we were talking. So,
can we fix that? Can I get you to one?
No. Yeah, you could get me to one. Yeah, for sure. I would go one time. I mean, I don't understand strip clubs. I've never understood why you would go to one, frankly. It just seems like a colossal waste of money to me. But
I mean, some guys go there to fall in love, buddy.
I guess you have to look at it as it's a good charity effort, right?
Sure.
Good charity, you're being nice. I did not find her at the Cougar Lounge. I didn't find her at a strip club. We met outside of the fact. Big man on campus in Blackjack. This is the Don Status Sports Capping. Thanks, bro. Appreciate you, Trap House Books. Love Trap House Books. All right, let's get into today's action. We've got one game today, and it's in the West Coast. On the West Coast, not in the West Coast, on the West Coast. It is the Denver Nuggets at Phoenix. Phoenix obviously up 1-0 here. Phoenix laying 5.5, total 223.5. It's come down a little bit, but it's at 5.5. Michael Porter Jr., questionable. You've got to figure Michael Porter will do everything in his power to play tonight. However, not ideal. Back injury, not ideal. Especially for a guy that's not good defensively as it is, and for a guy that's got to take on a bigger role without Jamal Murray and without guys last year like Gary Harris and Jeremy Grant. They don't have those players anymore. And there is talk that maybe they're going to get Will Barton back. But again, both players, Barton and Porter, I don't know if I expect a whole hell of a lot out of them. So it doesn't really make me not want to take Phoenix here. The truth of the matter is Phoenix is just a better team, okay? And we saw this in this Jazz-Grizzlies series, right? Phoenix is just better. I thought Ayton did a bang-up job on Nikola Jokic. And I think Michael Malone is kind of in a pickle here because Monty Williams has kind of realized, look, if Jokic goes off and gives him 30, well, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win. The Suns do a great job in the fourth quarter at really kind of limiting and not allowing teams to come back. I thought the Nuggets kind of got enough out of everyone in game one that was enough to win the game, and they still lost by 17. That's kind of how bad it was for them. I thought defensively, I don't think they can stop the Suns. They're not a good defensive team as it is. I'm gonna lay the points again. I played it the first game. I'm gonna lay it again. Wouldn't surprise if we get a sweep here. I truly believe that. I think the Suns are just on a different level. Defensively, the crowd's great. They've got Paul, they've got Booker, and it's such a gulf, as we talked about, Blackjack, in this series with Booker and Paul compared to Campazzo and Rivers. Nice players, but they're not on that level. I like the Suns here to cover the 5.5.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I was going to lay anything 7 or under probably. And it's for the reasons you just said, right? I mean, like, listen, Jokic had a nice game, and Aaron Gordon played well offensively. Michael Porter Jr. gave you 15. Campazzo gave you 14. And you still just got blown out. Like, I don't know how this gets better. Michael Porter Jr., the injury is really concerning because, number one, like you said, his outsized importance to the team is a real problem. But number two, this is a back injury. This is the injury that kept him out at Missouri. This is the injury that caused him to fall to Denver in the first round of that NBA draft when, coming into that year at Missouri, he was talked about like he was going to be number 1 overall pick. Back injury changed that. I don't know. Hopefully it's not any sort of severe thing, but it worries me. And Phoenix is just, Phoenix just looks great, man. They just look so good. They're so, if you think back to a year ago, Jeff, when this team went on that 8-0 bubble run, right? They were so reliant on Devin Booker to just go out and put up 40 a night. Nowadays, you've got 5 starters giving you 20 plus. Like, it's crazy what they're doing. Their bench is playing great. And I think one thing that this playoff run for Phoenix has been, it's been a little bit of a coming out party for DeAndre Ayton. I think people are starting to see that DeAndre Ayton, it may have taken a couple of years for him to kind of, come into himself physically. But this kid can play in the NBA. And he can defend a little bit. He can give you points. He can rebound. He can play down low. DeAndre Ayton is proving to be a very valuable part of this Phoenix team.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more, to be real honest. I think you made a really good point about Porter as well. I follow recruiting, as you know, Blackjack, and when Michael was at Nathan Hale in Seattle, when he was coming out to go, there was a time where I thought Michael Porter was one of the better players I had seen in a long time. Yeah. Like, he was the number 1 player in the country. He was just incredible. And then that back injury came at Missouri, and it just kind of made him a different player. He was a little more tentative, and he kind of figured it out, but it's kind of cropping back up again, and that's concerning because once you start kind of worrying about it, it kind of starts creeping into your game a little bit, and that's not good because, as we've talked about on this show, he's important to them because they don't have Grant. They don't have Murray. They don't have Gary Harris. They don't have Plumlee. They don't have those guys anymore. No. So they're kind of forced to go to those guys, and if you can't go to them, you really have to go into your bench. Here's what I will also say. I think, and I did this last night with a young assist prop, and it worked out. I do think Jokic points, rebounds is a pretty solid play tonight. Yeah. Now, I know Ayton did a nice job, but it was some tape now. With that MVP out of the way, I think Jokic is a little bit more assertive tonight. I think they have to. It's almost like Embiid, right, Blackjack? You've got to center the game around him. Yeah, sure. And Ayton, I think, is really good, but I still think he's a bit more limited on the defensive end. Yeah. You look at Jokic the other night, only played 36 minutes, had 22 points and 9 boards, so he got to 31. Tonight you needed him to get to 42. It's 41.5. That's his points and rebounds.
He needs to score 40 tonight. You know what I mean? Like, if you're Denver, he's got to score 40 tonight.
Yeah, I think this, and I think for me, that's kind of, I don't know if we'll get to 40, but I think he's like a 35 and, 10 tonight. Or
that's what I'm saying is that's what, if you're the Nuggets, that has to be your thought process going into this game is he's got to go off. He has to go off.
Exactly. And I remember back into the regular season, and I'm going to kind of talk about it just a second here. When you look at rebounding per game, this was a Phoenix team that really struggled on the glass. And they were second worst in the NBA in total rebounds per game. I've always kind of tried to target some of their rebound props. So I think not only will Jokic get his on the offensive end, I think he can obviously get into the 12, 13 rebound category and kind of push himself up and over that 41.5. So I'm going to play that as well. Nikola Jokic over 41.5 points and rebounds. I think he has a big night. And it could be in a losing effort, but I think this is kind of like a 115, 105 type of game. And I think Phoenix get this job done here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking the Suns.
Couple of comments here from the crew. I need money, says DeAndre Ayton, over 25.5 points and rebounds. Yeah, as Blackjack said, he's really come on. I think both bigs in this matchup are playing particularly well and have played well. And Ayton's probably been the third best player in that class outside of Young.
I would play that. That over 25.5, I would play that.
Yeah. I think you have to lay a price. I think it's 120, but I think even 26.5. I mean, you have to figure it's like a 21 and 10 type of night for Ayton. A couple people in here just say hello. Bruce Shad, Jeff Paz, Hunter, Akbar, Sam, Gerald. Thanks all of you for watching. East Woodmore, Antonio. Who else do we have? Generic Residential Product says 223 for a full game total. Over under thoughts. I'm a little more, as the playoffs go on, a little bit more skeptical to play totals. I think the Suns maybe overachieved a little bit offensively the other night, but Denver's not a good defensive team. So, and I'm going to lend more that I think Denver's probably a little bit more successful offensively tonight. But it's hard to think just because we don't know what Porter's status is. We don't know how effective they're going to be. They're really going to need Nikola Jokic to put up 35 or 40 tonight.
Okay.
So total, I'm kind of out on. But Blackjack, let's kind of transfer just quickly to hockey tonight. We always, anytime you're on, try to get your thoughts. You're a hockey guy. You play a lot of hockey. You've always been a good capper. By the way, do you have a dog?
No. Cat.
I hear. It was some kind of animal.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were a cat guy.
Why not?
You don't strike me as a cat guy.
He was cool. His name was Gatsby.
Is that his name now?
Oh, yeah, I kept that name. I love that book. It's one of my favorite novels.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Do you remember in Entourage when Vince did the Gatsby film? Do you remember that?
No, I wasn't a big Entourage guy.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't that either, but I just remember. All right, Bruins, Islanders tonight. Big game. Islanders can close it out, can't they?
Yeah, they can. And, I mean, listen, it's such a tough series because if you look at the last two games in particular, Boston outplayed the Islanders, and they lost both games. Because what the Islanders do, and this is why they're so tough in the playoffs, is they turn every game into a rock fight, right? I mean, they just ugly these games up. The Islanders want to be in a one-goal game in the third period. That's it. That's the goal, right? If they do that, then they're going to do what they can do to try to close this thing out. But they are going to make it ugly. They're going to do it again. I think the best play in this game is under 5.5 goals because I think the Islanders are really going to ratchet up the defensive pressure. I think this is going to be a almost solely defensively focused team tonight. And Boston is going to have to be a little bit more surgical with when they choose to attack because that's when you give up those odd man rushes if you get a little sloppy on the offensive end. So I think we're looking at a game that probably screams 3-2. So for me, the best play tonight is under 5.5. Wouldn't shock me if either team won, though.
I got to play tonight. By the way, I hit a plus like 450 parlay the other night. Another Hockey Sharp winner. I got a play tonight that's going to rock your socks off. It's another big plus money winner. Plus 178. Brad Marchand scores a goal in this game. You look at the last 4 games against the Islanders. He scored a goal in 3 of them. One of their best players. He needs to play well tonight. He's going to have about 20-plus minutes of ice time. He's going to get a goal for the Bruins tonight.
Yeah, listen, Marchand finds himself in those positions a lot, so it's not a terrible bet at those odds.
Now remember, that doesn't count again. I don't keep records for hockey. I'm just having fun with this. But I think he scores tonight.
Take a shot.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. Before we go, I want to tell all of you, go check out Blackjack Fletcher. I know a lot of you already follow him on Twitter, but go follow him. He's one of the good people out there. He's doing a lot with a website called Better Than Vegas, which is a website that really involves the sports bettor out there that wants to put out content. It allows you to kind of put your own content out there. So go check out Better Than Vegas. Go check out Blackjack with the hockey, with everything he's doing. He's got a podcast with Paul LaDuca and Jeff Schwartz, former New York Giants lineman. Check him out. Check all that stuff out. Check out Blackjack Fletcher on Twitter at Blackjack Fletcher, no E at the end of Fletcher.
Yeah,
Wild name.
Blackjack Fletcher, you'll find it.
Yes, exactly. Just search Blackjack. Also, I want to tell you all about the Sit Down. We got a new episode out today. Go check that out. If you enjoy Mafia history, you enjoy the Mafia, you enjoy mob movies, you enjoy murder, mayhem, people spitting out bullets after they get shot, check it out. We try to give you the most compelling information that you're not getting anywhere. And we try to tell you a story about a gangster every week. This week we did a show on the very wild Carmine Persico. This is a guy that committed murder by the age of 17. He beat the rap with that. He rose to the top of the Colombo crime family after killing one of the most legendary mobsters in the history of the game. He survived multiple wars. He is a fascinating guy, and his end was his own moronic decisions. And he even made a very famous friend in prison and created one of the most legendary musical bands in the history of the federal prison system.
That's right.
Go check that out. I'm telling you, we give you info you are not getting anywhere, and I mean that. Every week, Blackjack and I bring you that. I really am proud of this show. It's gaining a lot of steam, and we hope you enjoy it.
Hell yeah, man. It's great. It's a great show. Looking forward to it. So
Just search The Sit Down on Spotify, on Google Pods, on iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. That's that for us tonight. For me, best bet, Suns minus 5.5. I also like Nikola Jokic, points, rebounds, over 41.5. Think he has to have a big game tonight. If he doesn't, I think the Suns will cover anyway. So at worst, I think I'm going to go 1-1. I don't think the Suns lose and Jokic doesn't get to that. So I think all in all, at least I hit 1-1.
I think you're safe.
Yeah, so Blackjack, good stuff. Always good to see you. Always good to hear from you. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks, brother.
Sounds good.
Everybody, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching the Hoops Betting Hour. We're here every day. Tomorrow, I've got an important announcement really quick. Tomorrow, I've got two things, Blackjack. I'm going to Shady Maple tomorrow. And do you know what that is?
No.
Shady Maple is arguably the greatest smorgasbord in the country. Do you know what a smorgasbord is?
I'm familiar, yes. Where is this?
It's in East Earl, Pennsylvania. It's in Amish country. It's about 25 minutes from my house. I try to go every year. It is an app. They make videos about it. It's that important. People come from all over the country to go to Shady Maple. It is high level. Yeah, okay. I try to go once a year. I didn't go last year, but I'm concerned. I'm mentally preparing myself because I haven't been there since I lost all this weight, and I'm trying to mentally prepare because I don't usually eat breakfast. So I'm gonna just go and have fun. I'm not worried about my diet or anything tomorrow. Also, on the show tomorrow, I'll be back by noon. We got a new guest tomorrow I'm excited about. Her name is Kate. She's actually really cool. She works for Stadium, and she's going to come on and give us some good stuff on the NBA. So make sure you join me tomorrow. Where hopefully we have another Chino. I got to take you there, Blackjack. It looks good, doesn't it?
I'm checking it out right now. It looks very good.
Yeah, all the food is homemade. It's Amish comfort food.
I'd say we got some Amish places down here.
You do?
Enclave, and the Amish, they make everything from scratch, brother. It's so good.
Pinecraft, right?
Yes.
That's what it's called. That's where the Amish go.
This is good.
Well, Blackjack, if you come up here anytime soon, we should go there. I'll take
I might have a horse running soon, so.
Well, let me know. We'll go up. It's not that far from my house. 30 minutes.
Beautiful.
Okay, have a good night. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Blackjack. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.